What does a man know about what women want in a relationship? Plenty, if that man is Pastor A.R. Bernard. Take a look.
A.R. Bernard founded New York's Christian Cultural Center. Today, his church has over 37,000 members. This influential pastor has spent decades teaching and counseling couples. He's witnessed relationships in every stage of life. In his book, 4 Things Women Want from a Man, Pastor Bernard shares what he's learned and helps men and women discover what it takes to have a healthy, lasting relationship.
Please welcome to the 700 Club, Pastor A.R. Bernard. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Terry. Good to be with you.
Well, a new book, 4 Things Women Want from a Man. Let's talk about this. I'm sure ears are all tuned in.
And it's funny, the questions you ask, what does a man do telling women what they want? The number one complaint that women have about men is that men don't listen. So when I finished the manuscript on this book, gave it to my wife, she looked up at me after she read it, smiled, and she said, "You've been listening." So that book is credit to her.
Well, you say that one of the reasons we struggle in our relationships is that most of us are looking for self-expressive connections. What do you mean by that?
That's where the motivation for marriage has developed too, from the traditional shelter, provision, protection, relationships in sexual fulfillment, etc. But after the 1960s revolution, everything changed. So now the motivation to get married is self-actualization, self-discovery. And,
what have you done for me lately?
And that's, what have you done for me lately? 85% of relationships are doomed to fail because people are inequipped. 85%. 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce.
Wow.
And 60% when it's the second time around. And I wish I could say that in the Christian world, it was different,
yeah.
But it's not. So we need tools. So these 4 things, maturity, decisiveness, consistency, and strength, really summarize what women are looking for.
Well, you take time in the book to really delve into what those things mean. It's just words until we define that. Let's take maturity first.
Yeah.
What is a woman looking for in maturity in a man?
That's a great place to start, maturity. Because, you could have a man that's 60 years old and immature.
Boy, that's
you could have a 20-year-old young man who is very mature. So maturity doesn't come with age. It begins with the acceptance of responsibility. I cannot tell you how many women I interviewed who said to me, "I just wish he'd grow up." Well, what does she mean by that? Yeah. She means 2 things, responsibility and decorum. She means, I just wish he would accept responsibility for his words, his thoughts, his motives, his actions, and his attitudes. I just want him to be responsible for them. And secondly, decorum. I want him to be aware of and know how and when to conduct himself in any given situation or circumstance. Because usually when a man is intimidated by a situation, he regresses into adolescence. And when he does that, he forces the woman to become his mother, and then he gets mad at her for mothering him.
That's it. That is it, really. And it's true, you say women mature faster than men do, just generally. I mean, that's just kind of a rule of thumb. So they want a man who will lead in that department.
Exactly.
So talk about decisiveness, because that's a big part of leadership too.
Well, here's a double standard, okay? It's a woman's prerogative to change her mind. But men, we have to be decisive. You know the story. Honey, are you hungry? Yeah. Would you like to get something to eat? Sure. Where do you want to go? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want to go to that restaurant we went to? No, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
So women...
Yes, try to figure out.
Try to figure it out, But decisiveness means the ability to make decisions quickly and confidently. And in order to do that, we have to have a set of values and principles that guide our decision-making process.
Well, and you have to know that it's important. I mean, that's really what you're doing here. These are not things that we don't know of, but we maybe don't know the significance of them.
Exactly. And your values are what you consider to be most important, what you stand for in life, what you're willing to pay the price for, and what you're willing to die for, really.
Yeah. So what about consistency?
Consistency. When a man's words and actions and his values align and they're congruent, that's important to a woman because it gives her a sense of security and safety. She doesn't expect a man to be perfect, but she does expect that his actions line up with some degree of consistency with what he claims to value and considers to be most important.
Men may not realize it, and I realize we can't make sweeping statements about every man or every woman, but there is something in a woman that wants to feel safe. And consistency makes you feel like you can sit down and rest on the relationship you're in.
Relationships are based on trust, all right? And when a woman can trust and feels she can trust in that man, she feels safe, she feels secure. And women look for that. They need safety and security in the relationship.
And strength. Number 4. Talk
strength.
About that.
And that is not some macho thing where, no. Quite the contrary. Strength is a man's courage to live out his convictions. In the face of opposition, peer pressure, all types of pressure.
So you kind of have to know who you are.
Yeah, you have to have the identity crisis resolved. Yes, you have to know who you are. These are my convictions. This is what I live by. This is what I stand for, and I'm going to live that out. It also means the ability to be gentle and kind, because when you're strong, you can be gentle.
You can afford to be.
You can afford to be.
You know, I think there has been such a loss of fatherhood in America, and that's where these traits would be learned. So if you don't have these traits in your life, are they teachable? Are they learnable?
Absolutely. They can be learned and developed over time. When I talked about decorum and in a man having decorum, that comes through intellectual and social and moral development. And there's no school that we go to. When I got married, I was 19 years old. We were in love with each other, and we wanted to formalize the relationship.
You've walked the journey together and learned much along the way. And now A.R. Bernard shares that with all of us. 4 things women want in a man. Wonderful information. It's available wherever books are sold. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great to have you here.